All right, are we live? Yep, we're live. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the period of review 2017 for the continuing committee, second edition. I got my guests with me. I got, in no particular order, Ross Fertile, our 2E brand manager, Matt Kirk, our design director, also head of Project Excelsior.
I'm not the design director. I'm the creative manager. But
oh,
thanks
I'm
anyway.
sorry. I got that.
Nah, give him my job too. I don't want it anymore.
Speaking of the design director, we got John Corbett, and last but not least, we got Maggie Geppert standing in for Josh Sheets as head of the Errata team. So first of all, welcome everybody, and let's before we dive into questions, I'd like each and every one of you to just give me a quick recap of what 2017 was for you and your departments, and yeah, then we can start diving into the questions. So Ross, how about you lead us off?
2017 has had 3 expansions, which have been great. First half of it was really quiet, and I do apologize for that. But we've got some really cool things that came out, testing out a new design process, and I'd say overall things are going really good, and happy to be here.
All right, thank you. Matt?
Most of 2017, besides our normal work on expansions for lore and titles and whatnot, has been spent on, for creative anyway, doing the background stuff for Excelsior coming out next year in 2018. We've got some exciting storyline stuff coming up, and we're excited to share it with everybody.
All right, thanks a lot. John?
Well, if the question is, what did 2017 mean to me? I mean, I started the year by trolling everyone about make Trek in America great again, but I think that was a legitimate goal, not to take away from anywhere else. But I mean, I think we did that. I mean, we had a pretty good year in North America in 2017. A lot of good events: Chicago, Lexington, Texas. Shameless plug. And on the reverse side, on the nerd side, I mean, somehow I talked Charlie into trying my crazy design director idea, and we're about halfway through the trial run. So I think things are going good. I mean, we're here to find out if it's not, but I mean, I think we're going in the right direction.
All right, thank you. And Maggie, what's going on with Errata?
Errata's been very quiet this year. I mean, I think that the game is in a pretty well-balanced place right now. We had one big deck that we took a look at, known as the Jägerbomb deck. So dual headquarters, DS9, TNG, Earth, crazy downloads, and use of Preposterous Plan, and a legendary civilization. So, I mean, that was sort of this weird amalgam of craziness. And really the only thing we did with that is we took down a legendary civilization to make it so that you had to remove people from the game who were a part of the mission attempt. So you couldn't leave Loxana and Bashir sitting at your headquarters and then take out those 12 counters of personnel. So, but honestly, the game seems, besides that one deck, which if you look at the decks that won regionals and the other big events, that Jägerbomb deck only took out a couple of different events, and it didn't have much of a showing at Worlds. So we've had so much balance in the game that Errata hasn't really done a lot this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Can I
just add a little onto that?
Oh, we took out your idea on Preposterous Plan.
No, well, yeah, I want to explain that. Inaction doesn't mean that we weren't. I mean, when it comes to preposterous plan, like me and Josh legitimately nerd battled over the debate on preposterous plan, and the debate ended when Josh convinced me I was wrong and managed to insult me in the same post. I was rather impressed with that. But I just want people to know that just because if we choose not to do something doesn't mean we're not having our internal nerd fights over it.
Yeah, and as usual, if you feel that there is a card that needs errata, please contact Josh. We do not preemptively go out and look for cards. We take feedback from the general public. So if there's a card that you think legitimately needs a look, please PM Josh Sheets. He's Prylar Durden, and he will bring it up to the errata team.
And you will hear back from them. If you don't hear back from them, let me know.
All right. While we're on this topic, I have a question that got sent to me as a PM, and it says, we really need to make the whole process more open and include far more testing. I just looked through the playtest forum and could hardly find any cards that had been tested over the last years. Some really upsetting ones that had been on the watch list haven't been tested at all, or maybe in a different group ? Errata is such an important tool to keep the game balanced and fun to play. We need more transparency here and quicker actions. I still remember the major upset that was Homeward Bound.
Well, I mean, we can't do too much more in terms of playtesting if the playtesters aren't there to do it. I mean, we even put out there was a suggestion last year to put out a call for public playtesting, or, where people could, or playtest on Lackey. And we asked people to come and sign up, and we actually had nobody. We had like one person, as far as I understand it, who said, yeah, I'll come in and join a Lackey playtest group. So, we can't test things if we don't have testers. So if you guys are, wanting to have more playtesting, please consider bringing your groups of friends and creating a playtest team. Or if it's just you, we have a Lackey group, or, ostensibly we have the option of having a Lackey group, so come and join that. We're not going to make things transparent in terms of who is on the team. I mean, I can give you some general outlines that we have a person from rules, we have a person from design, to make sure that those teams are talking to each other. We have, people who are not green badges, people from the general public who are, high level players, but, that's who's on the team right now.
Well, I also want to point out that Homeward Bound isn't exactly a good example of how it usually works. Homeward Bound was a tricky one. That's why we had to send, I think Josh sent 2, maybe even 3 different versions.
I think it was 3.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the times it's like, let's just add once each turn to a card, or like Tile doesn't broadcast. So you'd send that to the testers, and, they only got to have a good whack at it. But yeah, every now and then a really tricky one comes along. And I mean, I'm not sure what else more they would want. I mean, the only thing we can do is get more play testers, but the turnaround time for testing, I think, isn't too bad. And I don't know how much of that there was before the Errata team, how much testing went through. I think it's probably about the same. So, I mean, sometimes it's tricky and sometimes it's easy, but it's never going to be too easy.
Yeah, I think one of my personal things that I had was that, or the idea was that, at least for our group, we do a lot of one-on-one testing, but we rarely get the whole group together. And I think for us, it would be a lot easier if just, everybody could whip up a quick test report and don't have to send it through the team lead to post it on the boards. I think if all the testers had posting privileges on the playtest forum, that would be we could get a lot more in.
In my notebook.
Yeah, I'd totally be okay with that. I want all the reports, even the 15-minute to a half hour. We played a quarter of a game, but this is what happened. I don't care who they come from, really. part of the group.
Yeah, cool. So let's get on with questions. Hang on, where are my questions? So Laytalk asked, who's on the current 2E design team? Recent designers, current designers, near future designers. Who chooses 2E designers and who works on each set? How and why?
Yeah, this is the only question I prepared for, so I'm ready. I'm ready for the fastball. But I'll go over the quick roster of active designers. I don't have control over the design roster since I'm in my my rookie contract. Hopefully Charlie Charlie and Ross will get to that later. But right now, the only active set we have going is Project Barca, and on the blue team is Lucas Thompson and Mike Shea, and on the gold team is Danny Giddings, I hope I'm saying his name right, and Ben Hosp, who had to step in for Keith because Keith got a new professor job and smartly said, hey, I got a lot on my plate. Can somebody step in? And then I have a design, like my Texas Masters logistics thread, I have the same thing on design, my assignment board, because I have to see everything where everybody's at. So everyone else is in my bullpen, and I got Nathan Miracle, Charlie Plain, I cut them aboard. I didn't want to fire him. He does good work. Matt Kirk, Jeremy Benedict, Keith and Mark Morris, and Alexei Korolev. As for new designers, that's something I need. I got to go to the top for. I want to start hiring people, and I want to hire people from everywhere. I want to get an Australian designer. I got a Russian designer. I want a European designer. We just got to. I figured. Like I said, I'm talking out of my head right now, but I figured Charlie and Ross would be an advise and consent. I maybe open up the floor for design applications, or we do something else where a blind resume where John Carter sends me blind resumes and I choose one and then I find out who I picked. As for the process, I start a brainstorming thread before an expansion starts, and designers pitch the ideas. It lasts about 2 to 4 weeks, and then other designers riff off the ideas or come up with their own ideas. And at the end of it, I pick 2 pitches, and the design teams usually form themselves by that point. Usually you can tell who wants to work on what ideas, and I've never had a problem assembling a team. And if we're going to keep going through the process, so after the teams are selected, then we have our friendly competition. And for about 6 to 8 weeks, we go through a couple cycles of playtesting, usually about every 2 weeks. Keep updating files every 2 weeks. And at the end of that phase, we have what I call the merge, where I take all the playtest feedback. I get reports from the leads about which team they preferred. And then I usually go with that consensus. So I pick a team. The winning team gets about 18 cards. The other team gets about 9 cards. And then we put that into one set. And then we spend about 3 to 4 weeks ironing out that set. That's the find a card, break a card process. And then I hand it to Ross. And then he hands it to Matt and Art. And there you go. We never have 2 expansions in the pipeline at the same time. My theory is we can address gameplay concerns a lot faster, so we don't have to use Errata as much, and I think that's pretty much the process right there.
Well, I think you can put the caveat that we could have an expansion plus a boutique product. And
oh yeah, I forgot. I always forget boutiques. Yeah, boutiques. Usually just someone posts an idea about boutiques. That's a little more free form. Someone says, "Hey, I got an idea," and if anything comes of it. Yeah, we'll send 2 guys out of the bullpen to work on a boutique, about 9, like the Halloween set. Charlie in Germany went and worked on. So that's usually more top down. Hopefully doesn't require a lot of playtesting resources. But yeah, those will be in the pipeline at the same time. But so usually there's not too much going, not juggling too many balls in the air.
All right, thanks. As a follow-up to that, he also asks, what's the priority for 2E design? Is it balance or interesting gameplay?
My answer, I think it's the designer's jobs to come up with ideas. That's how I see it. That's just their job. Just come up with fun stuff. And I like to say I give them permission to fail. It's okay to come up with bad ideas because that's where good ideas sometimes come from. I think it's my job as design director and the tester's job. Their job is to keep the balance, to see the big picture. But you got to give the designers the freedom just to try wacky, off-the-wall stuff sometimes.
Yeah, if people think that design isn't coming up with interesting gameplay, you should have seen the alpha file for Nth Degree. That was
or
that
even
was some interesting.
Or Asher, I forget which, Mike Shea and Tyler. It really made Ross go crazy, and it made a couple playtesters go crazy. The first version.
Yeah, there were some crazy cards in that one.
Yeah, there were people about ready to have kittens when they saw that file.
Yeah. The claims of my being or the design being conservative. I mean, I can see how they would see that coming from the finished product, but hopefully they know we're not afraid to start crazy, and then that's how I think you make good cards. You got to start very powerful and then work your way down. When you come from the bottom up, I feel that's where you get your underpowered sets.
Yeah, there were a lot of cards early on. The playtesting said, "We don't like this. No, this is 1E. No."
Well, that's also I'm going down a different track, but I also wanted we had to change the culture of playtesting to not do that. Don't dismiss things out of hand. When we get the first half of the process, the friendly competition is the part where we work on flavor, we try crazy stuff, and then after the merge, it's time to all right, I've given the playtesters after that point, after the merge, I've given them the power, what I like to call pull the cord, stop the assembly line. If there's a card that they feel they're not being listened to, like there was that Maquis Bajoran guy that people had problems with a couple sets back. If there's something like I've empowered the playtesters to stop everything, and we'll have a meeting if they feel that they're not being listened to by design, or they're trying to go way too far over the top.
All right, cool. Just for John's sake, I'm going to ask this question. Do the guests consider themselves conservative or radical in their role?
You mean in Errata? Errata?
No, I think it's a general question to the guests on the board.
Okay. Well, go ahead. I'll let Maggie.
Yeah. Well, I can speak for Josh on this. He's very conservative in terms of Errata lead. You have to really pitch a change with Josh and make your case before he's going to be like, yeah, let's take that down. And I tend to be a bit conservative in my thinking when it comes to Errata, just because I don't want to see things happening again, like pre-Errata team, when we took down, when Fifth got taken down, or Quintessence. I think those Erratas went a little too far. But so I like to do as little as possible. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm not a board player. So it's not like it's affected me. But there's plenty of people who thought that went too far. So I'd like to do. I'm a Errata minimalist, I think.
Well, and also in the Errata game, Josh knows this now. You're never going to win. If no matter, you can make the simplest of Erratas, and half the people are gonna curse your name, because it's just the nature of the beast. So you're not going to make anybody happy. And then Josh is, most people are conservative on the Errata teams that aren't me. And I hope somebody who's more of an Errata hawk wants to sign up, because I don't want the job anymore. I kind of used to yell. I used to yell. Previous periods of review, we had too many people doing too many jobs. Oh, sorry, too few people doing too many jobs. I would like to have one nerd job per person. So somebody who thinks Quintessence and Fifth were good Errata, they should sign up, and then they can fight Maggie on the Errata boards.
Starfleet's finest. This means you.
Yeah.
Are you watching?
I just want to get in there real quick, because we're on the topic of Errata, and I think it's conservative is good for Errata. We don't need people jumping the gun on cards and giving Errata that's not well thought through. And I've received a question regarding that. Is there any chance that we get previously errata cards re-errata or made playable again?
Not typically, but I mean, if there's an interaction that needs to be fixed, then yeah. But reissuing errata is typically been. We don't like to do things over, but I mean, it has happened. We've errated. I mean, somebody gave me a card we've errated twice. I know there's like, yeah.
But I think we had to take him down even more.
Yeah.
I'm going to put out
Alpha 5 approach has been errated twice.
I want once more onto the breach to be in an engagement again, but that's just me.
Well, yeah, and then, like I said, like everyone has their errata hate. Like there was a short time where Charlie was doing the errata, and he did Mara and Mara Cruz, and I think the Mara errata is terrible. But I don't want to. That would be up to the errata lead. But I don't know if we want to go down the road where we start questioning previous errata czars and start quantum leaping and fixing what rights we think are, what went wrong. So I think we just got to just move on and play new cards.
Yeah, speaking of moving on here, we got to get on with this because I got a lot more questions here. I got this from Chris Sonsby. Second edition as a whole is very bloated in terms of the card pool, and all the new things players can do has detracted from the speed which the game can be played. So much so that we so much so that we routinely have 1E tournaments finish in less time than 2E tournaments. What is being done to speed up the game? Does anybody want to take this?
I was waiting for John to say something, but I'll jump in there if you want.
I don't want to hog the time. Go ahead. I'll come in at the end.
Well, I mean, just speaking to the aspect of what is being done to speed up the game, that's kind of what Excelsior has been. That's one of the goals from when Project Awaken was researched a couple of years ago, and the shorter card pool was seen as one of the ways to kind of focus players, and constraint breeds creativity, and also you can contrive the card pool so that you have cards that don't take up so much time be not part of the pool. As far as the full game, I would pass that off to John, but I don't think. I know there's been there was some mentioning about changing the VP values so that full wins were worth 5, and you get more incentivized to do full wins rather than mod wins. But I think that's more treating the symptom than the actual cause, and that if the game is going to get sped up, it's going to be it should be internally driven rather than trying to address it from external pressures like that.
I agree with Matt. If I could speak to Marion, I live in Texas. I got fire ants in the backyard, so I don't set the whole yard on fire trying to get rid of them. You got to target each spot, and I think if we change victory points or have changing the timing rules, I think we're affecting a lot of things. Now I know I'm not dismissing other people. The 1E taking longer than 2E seems a little excessive, but I'm sure in certain areas that's an issue. Slow people, games taking way too long. In my travels, I don't experience it that much, but that's just my, everyone's got their own perspective. So addressing it, one of the pitches for Barca were cards that speed the game up, cards that reward you for getting them in your opening hand to promote smaller deck size. And then another team has cards that help you get better as you're coming from behind. But they're not going to change the game dramatically. They're just going to be, bits and pieces trying to speed it up. I think this is an OP issue, how we address people who take an exorbitant amount of time. And those, like I said before, that those people are few and far in between and getting fewer. So hopefully we don't do nothing too drastic to address this problem. But there's little things we could do.
Because I mean, if you go ahead, Maggie.
Oh, I was going to say, well, when it comes to slow play, I mean, let's look at the things that slow the game down. The biggest thing that slows down the game is downloading. Now, when I'm playing one of my decks, I know what the targets are for downloading. But I'm try to be pretty fast about what I'm getting out of there. But other things like secret ID take a little longer. So those sorts of things we might address in the future, and I'm probably going to get the torches and pitchforks coming after me for saying something like this. But limiting, if we find that downloading is the biggest thing, well, let's change the rules. You can only have one download per turn, kind of like what Matt's doing in the Excelsior rule format. I know,
people need to start playing standard orbit so people can only download off the top 10 cards.
So there are other things that cause slow play, but then again, you still are always going to have players who are very deliberate. Like one of my local guys is a deliberate player. He's not slow on purpose, but every one of his games goes to time. Every tournament. So because he thinks hard about what he's doing. So I mean, it's a really tough issue to address because you don't want to punish the people who are sitting and thinking hard about what it is that they're doing.
You also don't want to have a situation where people can finish games in 20 minutes and then the person who lost is sitting there for half an hour while everybody else finishes up going like, wow, that was really crappy that I lost in that short amount of time.
Well, if you want less downloading, the only thing I can tell you is I'm not a fan of downloading. So I mean, from the design standpoint, we try not to go. We don't go down that road a lot unless it's very targeted downloading. But I've always said when it comes to slow players, if it's not on purpose, if they're just a slow guy thinking a lot, you got to eat it. There's nothing you can do. Games are going to take an hour and 15 minutes. If it's deliberate stalling, we have a system. It requires two people to call somebody out. And I know in the Star Trek world, that is a hard thing to do. You got to call your opponent out to tell them not to do it. And then the TD's got to come over and tell them not to do it. I know that's a hard thing to do. We're not confrontational people by nature, but we're going to have to start being if this is a problem. There's rules in place for this already.
And especially at higher level events, it should not be considered an issue to call the TDs. It should be just standard operating procedure for you to, if somebody's not playing at a reasonable pace, you get the TD over. I mean, and we're talking not locals, but level.
This problem didn't come up at Worlds at all. So.
No. I mean, there were rounds that went to time every time because people were playing interactive decks or whatever, but I don't think I'd never encountered anybody that I felt was playing at an unreasonable pace.
Yeah, if you have 8 games going, one of them is going to take an hour and 15 minutes. That's the game. So we can't do nothing about that. You got to schedule accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest deals is the scheduling of the events, and we here have the fortunate situation that we are not bound by any business hours in the places we play in. I think it's mostly people who play in game shops, game stores, and stuff like that are bound by their business hours. But I usually, when I schedule my events, I usually try to give me enough time between rounds so that I don't get a problem with that.
This is OP. Sorry.
Oh, that's something that I was considering when I was making the schedule for Continentals for this upcoming year. Is timing out in my head how long a game is going to last and putting in extra time for games going over.
If we want to, this is more for organized play, but if we want to address this, let's go back to hands down. And TDs should only give a half-hour warning, and nobody should be looking at their clock more than one time during a game. Just don't be that guy, and everyone just play your game. And sometimes you lose because the time runs out, and sometimes you win because the time goes out. Let's go hands down. Let's get these things done in an hour.
Hands down doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, let's save that.
What's the problem? Games going too long? because that's what it solves. Let's have our first argument. Come on, this peer review's too nice.
John, let's
hands down doesn't solve the problem because both players don't get an equal amount of time.
Let Ben's got to move it on. We'll yell at this.
Yeah,
we'll yell about this later.
Let's save this discussion for the OP show, because I don't know if we get it in there, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. But well, okay, let's go on with 2E here. I got a question for Ross. The sets released in 2017, the 3 sets released, 2 of them, the Nth Degree and Dead Stop, were probably widely regarded successful. There's been a lot of criticism on 0 Hour. Why do you think that is? And do you think the long waiting time for 0 Hour has something to do with that?
Yeah, with 0 Hour, I do completely fall on the sword with that. The only thing I could say is I was new, and I just saw the work was being done. It just wasn't being done fast. There were a lot of factors going on. I don't want to throw shade at anyone, but it was being worked on. It just wasn't really moving as fast as it should have been. I saw just from the versions that it was going through, like versions are labeled with letters. So A is the first version, B is the second, and so on. Usually around G and H is when it kind of settles down and we're done. 0 Hour actually went to J, which is really long. I should have said, guys, we need to finish this. Guys, let me know when you're done. Or guys, you're going to be done at this date. What's going on? Thankfully, both my bosses were on my keister to get that out the door. So that happened. I do completely apologize. It won't happen again. I'm on people to make sure that things are done in a reasonable amount of time. If not, I'm moving them forward, and trust me, several people will attest that behind the scenes. And then what was the second part of that question, or did that take care of it?
Well, it was. I think people probably perceived the cards in 0 Hour differently because they waited so long for them. I think 0 Hour, for me personally, 0 Hour is my favorite of the 3 sets that we've had this year. I think there's been unfair criticism, or it's been unfairly criticized very harshly, because I don't see the problem with 0 Hour really. But I think the question was, do you think that the long waiting time played a role in 0 Hour being perceived not as well as it should have?
Well, I'd not to throw shade at anyone, but if they have that opinion, I imagine it's just because of the way 0 Hour turned out. The set is pretty much an end cap to the Phase 2 2HQ model, so to speak. So if you didn't like the 2HQ model, if you didn't like what Phase 2 did, you're probably not going to like 0 Hour. And just also, it's a follow-up set, so there really wasn't anything that you could really build your deck around. And also, that was just when I was coming on board as brand manager, and I saw that we have a set that's all based around Phase 2, and a lot of people aren't liking Phase 2, and I'm like, oh, great, how am I going to sell this?
If I may throw some shade, not at any person, I'm throwing shade on the lead system, because we had 4 people on that set, and one of them was in Russia. Now the logistics of getting a meeting together are not good. So and yeah, things just went slow. Keith was the lead. He didn't do a bad job. He was great to work for, but it just went slow. And then he didn't have. I mean, he had Charlie as a boss. He didn't have a brand manager as a boss cracking the whip like Ross cracks the whip on me. So I think not only was it the end cap to Phase 2, it should be the end cap to the lead system. I think it's just we got to start doing things in new dynamic ways.
All right.
I think the only other thing I would add to that would be that if I would rather delay a set than put it out too soon. So if that situation does come up again, that's what I would pick, rather than trying to rush something out that's not really ready.
It was never delayed because of issues with the cards. It was just.
No, I'm just saying that if people are criticizing for things coming out too late rather than too soon, I would rather.
Oh, okay. You're right.
I would own up to that and say, yes, we're going to put it out late because it's not ready yet, rather than putting it out too soon.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so I got questions here from Honest about design. He says one thing I like about 1E and it's small, and it's a small pool, is dual affiliation cards. Is it time to try some in 2E? Chances of making stronger cards, but with drawbacks, and chances of making standardized list of cards for sealed and draft play.
Well, you have 2 of the 3 of those already. You've got cards that play to different HQs, either by game text on themselves, such as Kira, or like future so-and-so who can import to their native HQ and to the relativity HQ. So that is in there. There's also cards that let you play diplomacy personnel. There's that mission that gets you an archaeology personnel. So those do exist. They're just not this big dump en masse, this complete either or thing that you can get. As far as cards with drawbacks, take a look at the Nth Degree. You have the USS Stargazer, which has a drawback, and there was a lot of discussion on that. The promo for that set is a guy that has a lot of scales, but also has a high cost. So these are things that are already there. If you want more, then we can look into getting you more of them, but they are there.
Well, and you
Ross,
to make
go
cards.
ahead, John.
To make cards like that, they got to be within the theme. Like I think Dissidence costs less, but you have to pitch a card from hand. I mean, that's just the flavor. So the powerful card with a drawback is a fine design concept, but you have to make that within the affiliation flavor. So when it comes up, it comes up. So you just can't make that just to make that, is what I'm trying to say.
I think what Honest was talking about with the 1E flavor of having a treaty for 2 different HQs is being able to, play double HQ or, play a single HQ that lets you play 2 different affiliations. And typically that's not something that 2E is catered to, just because you want to prevent people from being able to abuse all of the affiliation restricted verbs for, needing three of Fed to play something, or 6 Klingons to do whatever. But I would say that if we did sort of tease it in the last promo sheet on what was it, Dead Stop, that there was going to be that type of, there was going to be some dual HQ love in the next set, if I remember correctly.
One of the pitches in Barca, the team, the coming from behind cards was the sub pitch. The other was carrots for dual HQs. Now that we have a good deal of anti-dual HQ cards, I feel we can start giving carrots. It's there's a risk reward, but that's on design's radar, and we're trying to. But yeah, you got to be careful, because usually dual HQ is where the bad stuff starts to happen.
All right. Laytalk just commented in the chat room that the problem with 0 Hour is that it was based around combats and engagements, and therefore the cards were worse on average than normal, because no way were powerful interaction cards going to be released to dominate the meta.
If I may, what does the meta mean? It's an honest question. Like, there's not just one meta. The meta is where you play. That's your meta. So I think
he probably means whatever the Masters results or Continentals or Worlds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe the cards are a little underpowered. I mean, that's I think that might have happened.
I mean, the other aspect is that people are saying that, time games are a problem. Most of the decks at the higher level events are trying to get full wins, because even getting a timed win can knock you out of contention for, getting the top spot. So yeah, we didn't see a whole lot. I think really the only interaction deck that I saw when I went to Continentals and Worlds and Texas Masters, and I think I saw there was a Maquis deck that Steve Nelson was running, and then Kevin Yeager's assimilator that he played on day 2 of Continentals were really the only
there was
heavy
two
interaction decks that I saw.
There was 2 Maquis decks, and I played them both the first 2 rounds. That was fun. And there was 2 battle decks at Worlds. So yeah, but if interaction, how much percentage should interaction, like battle or Maquis, like how much interaction? What's the percentage that's good? What's healthy? I say about maybe 20%. I mean, that's just a honest question.
I will also say that I currently am playing in the TUI online tournament, and I put together a Maquis deck that uses the Delta Pavonis, and it's not so bad. It's you get a free mission out of it after you stack enough stuff under there. So I've been having okay results with it. I know it's not going to be in a tier 1 or 2 deck, but I think a better player than myself could probably tweak it so that you might start seeing it in a higher level play next year, probably.
All right. So, let's see, what else have we got? We got Rick. Rick asked, how much time and man hours does it take to be a volunteer in each of the various departments on a day-to-day basis? In the opinion of the people involved, does it take more time than is sometimes available or desirable to perform duties? And in a perfect world, what would it take to make being a volunteer for the CC a more pleasant experience?
Wow.
Why are you laughing, Matt? You don't enjoy your
I'm just saying that's a big question.
Yeah,
that's like I think the most challenging aspect of working on the boards is that not everyone is real time. You have to wait for other people to respond in different locations. Not everybody's on their computer 24/7, and that's what delays the process the most. I mean, obviously, if we were all working 8 to 5 as a real job, we could be churning this stuff out a lot faster. But we're not. We're volunteers. We've been doing this for 10 years, and the speed at which, I mean, for my department per week, to answer the original question, I don't know, maybe all put together, maybe 5 to 10 hours in a week. Like, I mean, but that's a half hour here, 45 minutes there. It's not all at once, because again, like I said, sometimes you have to wait for the, you return the ball and you got to wait for the other person to hit the ball so that you can, give it back to them. Just as far as making progress, you have to wait for other people to either respond or implement something. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just personally for me. I wear a few different hats, and I know that answer could be different for other people.
Well, if you want a low time commitment job, join the Errata team. We don't have a lot going on right now. We're always also looking for people who want to come write articles. So, and that's a do that when you want to kind of thing.
And the few articles that I've written, that's one of the major time sinks for me. I mean, it's not that it takes forever. It's just if I'm going to write an article, I'm going to stay on it for an hour or so, and do it from top to bottom. I know other people write like a paragraph at a time and then come back later, but.
If we're gonna lobby for nerd jobs, if you want the opposite, if you want the hardest, most pain in the ass, thankless job, become a playtester. I think we're in desperate need of playtesters, and I'm trying to change it a little bit where it only requires a half hour of your time every 2 weeks, and you only need one other person. But yeah, it's a lot of work. You got to print out the cards, the black and white, and put them in and write notes. And a lot of the times, it's a lot. You got to do a lot of squeezing to get a little bit of information out. But if you like, I mean, the reward is in the work. So if you're one of those types of people, please become a playtester.
Playtesting is our most underappreciated, most thankless job, and the people that we do have that put the time in, we really need to appreciate them more, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to make cards.
Well, and also the design process. That's why I wanted to give them a little bit more say in the process. How at the end of the friendly competition, I take the consensus of all the leads about which team wins. I also, if they're not being listened to, they can pull the cord and stop the presses on one card. You know, I mean, I know we've always talked about how to reward the playtesters, but there's really no reward besides appreciation and a job well done. So, you know, hopefully that's enough to maybe get some more. I just need pairs of people. Anybody, get off the street. Come on, we need you.
You want more cards? You want better cards? You want more frequent cards? Become a tester.
All right. So, let's see what else we got. We got Ben Hosp is asking, 1E cards that have received errata have errata printed in the collector's field. I find this useful. Can we do that in 2E as well?
I don't think so, because that it has to have the collector number to be able to be identified. I think we could probably do it like in the lore, but like in the bottom right, you could say, you know, errata and maybe like a date stamp or something. I don't know, that's something to explore.
Yeah, maybe like around where the non-existent copyright is on the border. That might be something we could put that.
Actually, I think, didn't we used to do that? Didn't it used to say errata on the side?
Oh, I don't remember. I need to go back and look at some of the older ones.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that, and I could certainly see doing something like that going forward. I don't want to speak. I don't want to talk about going back in the past and redoing all of that stuff. Because I don't want to make Johnny's head explode. But yeah, I mean, I certainly see a watermark or something for that for future errata.
Okay, so there was just something popped just up in the chat room. What's up with public playtesting, by the way? Yeah,
I was just responding. I'm not sure what that looks like exactly, and I don't know. Like, if you have time to publicly playtest, if you have time to put in the typing stuff, you could just join the playtesting team. Then you can put as much time in as you want, and you can work at your own pace. And I might be paranoid from previous public projects like the VR headset, and I know those were design projects, but I'm very skeptical of groupthink. I think just people working in teams and then giving the results in gives me a better consensus of what cards. Consensus. I'm like Trump. I can't say words of what what's working and what's not.
Are you having a stroke, John?
No, I just can't say it. My dentures are falling out. No, I can't say words. God bless the United States.
I think the other pitfall that public playtesting brought to us was the armchair designer, just off the cuff. Oh, well, you can do X, Y, and Z with this, blah, blah, blah. And then you get other people, kind of beehiving onto that. And it's just, it's not helpful. It's not as helpful as, I mean, obviously, if you see a problem with a card, you can call it out and say, well, this could do this interaction. Okay, fine. But unless you have gameplay data that backs up this is going to be a problem more than it should be, then the data is more important to actually tuning a card to where it needs to be.
If I could add on to that, I mean, that was kind of the problem. A lot of leads wanted too much data, like you had to prove a murder case, and I don't want I tell the testers, you don't got to prove a murder case. Just get me a little bit of gameplay data and give me your concerns, and then we will address it with the designers. So you need both, though. You just can't dismiss things out of hand and say this is going to break the game. You got to give me, just show me a little bit. You don't have to go all out, but yeah. But if you got time to public playtest, you got time to private playtest. So call Ross; he'll get you a job.
All right, so I got one final question that I somehow skipped over earlier. Before that, if there's any more questions that people watching want to have answers to, please hop in the chat room and ask them there. And so that final question that I have on my thing here is Wani has the monthly project status update. And is there anything like it at least behind the scenes for TUI? And if so, will it be public at any point? And correct me if I'm wrong, Ross, but weren't you doing something like that?
Yes! Yes, I have! It's there! If you go to the TUI boards, it's there! You see what's going on in the pipeline! It's dated! I don't know more what else I can do!
Ross,
Ross, there. Holy crap.
Ross. All right, time. Let's bring it down.
Like a horse. Whoa. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people like. I mean, you got to look for things sometimes, or be a little bit more active. But someone should have posted the question publicly, like, why isn't this, like, post a thread, like, hey, how come we're not getting 1E updates? And then someone could have replied on the thread, like, yo, it's right here, and give them the link. So, you know.
Actually, I think that question was in on the period of review board, and I asked everybody not to respond to questions on the period of review forum until after the period of review. So,
which
it's Mary's fault.
It is my fault.
Did not work out very well.
But it's worth it just to see Ross freak.
Yeah, that was some gold right there.
You got 2 kids. You're used to people not listening to you. Come on, be honest. Nobody listens to us.
I didn't hear you either for a record.
But being somewhat more calm, there's an activity report forum on the PC side. I have pretty much laid things out exactly what's going on there, and then I just take out the stuff that I can't post out in public. So you're getting exactly what we have behind the scenes. You're just seeing some stuff weeded out, and you should expect to see something updated on there this coming week.
All right, so that concludes the questions that I received. Let me just check the chat room. No, I don't think we got anything else. So anybody else want to share some closing thoughts, or are we good to go?
I do want to say that unfortunately Amber wasn't able to make it here today. She does send her regards. She says the rules are going well. She just wasn't able to make it. She apologizes.
Oh, potato.
What the hell? What the hell's happening?
Was that just me, or was he like really like unintelligible? Like the feed was messed up.
No, I caught most of it. If I can make some closing remarks.
Okay.
To Ben, you did a terrible job as peer review moderator. The trolls aren't going to like that you didn't tell us that we all suck at our jobs.
I can fix that. No problem. You all suck.
I mean, yeah. Well, the closest we got was 0 hour sucks. And hey, at least we didn't remember. It was at one point it was worse than unnatural selection. That's the new catchphrase when a set comes out. It's worse than unnatural selection. I take that as a compliment when I get those. But it's good.
You did that dig in on Nick, didn't you?
I didn't say that, but no, I want to say. I mean, the trolls do have a point. We got to be more critical of the jobs we do, and not afraid to be embarrassed when we. Hey, maybe 0 hour wasn't strong enough. That's an absolute valid point, and hopefully we are like we already said that we're addressing it in future cards how we're going bigger. If you want to go bigger. Start yelling at that guy in the corner, Ross. Tell him you want to be on design. Tell him you want to play test. Find out what job you want, and then we'll come up with a system. Like I said, we could use a few more. We don't want too many designers, but I want designers everywhere. I want casual designers. I want designers all over the globe. The only qualification for a designer, though, I will say, is that there's two qualifications. One, you got to have ideas. And number 2, you got to be willing to admit at all times that your idea might be dead dog shit. We all got to realize that our ideas suck sometimes. I like to think my ideas are good, but honestly, probably about only 60% of them are good. So, going into that game, So that's, I'm just giving call Ross, tell him you want a job, and we'll try to get. I want you to be a playtester, but if you want to be a designer, I'll take you too.
Just for closing thoughts, there's been a lot of for specifically Excelsior, but generally speaking, there's been a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we're getting ready for 2018. And while we did have a little bit of a drought there with 0 hour delayed, we should start seeing more stuff coming out in 2018. So I hope everybody sticks with us. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up, and I'm really looking forward to how Excelsior shapes up.
Yeah, and I have one last thing I want to say. It's sort of TUI related. I've been hearing lately about from different people. I've had this conversation with several different people about, hey, I've got this new player who's come into my play group, but I don't want to send them to the boards to ask questions because they're going to get shit on. So I'm going to ask everybody who's a 2E player that when you're on the boards, the gameplay boards or other boards, could we have a little civility, please? Especially if we've got new players. Please, please, please. Let's not be assholes in 2018.
No one has ever, Maggie, I'm going to push back a little bit. No one has ever got shit on for asking a general gameplay question on the boards. That's never happened. I'm not disagreeing with your point about civility, but no guy said, hey, how does this work? And someone said, you stupid asshole, why are you asking 2B gameplay questions on a gameplay board? So your point is valid, but the scenario is like 1E taking longer than 2E. It's a little excessive. That's all.
Wait, so which is it? Am I wrong or am I right? I can't tell.
No, you're right that, hey, a little civility doesn't hurt. But your scenario of people asking gameplay questions and being treated like assholes, that's never happened. No, I understand that they don't want to send them. I'm not saying the person saying that to you isn't saying that. I'm saying they're blowing it a little bit out of proportion. Just because there's people yelling about Kengazi doesn't mean someone's getting shit on for asking how does this Picard work in this scenario.
Well,
okay, but
the
the point does still stand that we have people who are like, I don't want to recommend that my new players come to the forums because people are being dicks. So let's all remember Wheaton's Law, please. Don't be a dick.
I think the larger point that speaks to is all of the game calling and whatever. I mean, not just because a new player is going to be on the receiving end of that, but if I went into a new community and got onto their forums and saw all of the hate, will, and discontent that we have had in this last year posted on the boards, yeah, I wouldn't probably want to frequent there either, just because I would be, just like, oh, there's a lot of conflict going on here, so I'm gonna just sidestep that, and not my monkeys, not my drama. So if
sorry to interrupt, but the conflict isn't because of trolls creating conflict. There's conflict because there was bad decisions being made. So I
agree.
Guys, I don't want to break this up here right now, but we're gonna discuss this at length in the POR, and maybe also in the omnibus. So
I'm not in that one. I have to say what I'm gonna say now.
Just two closing things that I would like to add. So first of all, Preposterous Plan did not wreck worlds. I just want to get that in there. And
Van Bremen tried.
And also, the playtest team that I'm a part of wanted me to specifically thank John for the job that he's doing right now, because we have a feeling that, we get heard a lot better, and that we have a lot more input, and generally that the way that we're doing it right now, the process works, and just wanted to get that out there. So if nobody else has anything, then I would take this to a close. We've almost reached, or we're over the hour already. So thank you everybody for taking time to be part of this, and let's hope we have a equally successful or more successful 2018.
And thank you, Ben, for moderating. I really appreciate you stepping up for
Yes.
You're an excellent. You make an excellent drone, Ben. Good job. The trolls are going to get you.
Bring it on. Bring it on. All right. Thanks, guys.